Briar from Colorado.
Hi, it's Briar.
Oh, Briar. Sorry, I hate mispronouncing names. Well, welcome, Briar. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today, just because I've been listening for a couple years now. I'm an XJW, and I would not be an XJW if it wasn't for Lloyd and obviously a huge host of people that are atheists that I listen to constantly for years. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like so shocked. I understand like just call-in shows are kind of like slowing down. Maybe it's just because people are busy for the holidays or something. But I need these shows. Like I literally watched for probably 2 or 3 years. And also I've dated atheists for like 10 years. And I was so defensive of Jehovah's Witnesses particularly, but Christians in general. I was very, very defensive of them for probably up until 2020 when the pandemic hit and my entire viewpoint changed. And all of my beliefs kind of came to this moment where I'm like, wow, listening to these shows, talking to my partners about my beliefs, understanding cognitive dissonance and cult-like behavior were things that if somebody just came at me specifically and told me, like, Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult or, something of the like, or God isn't real, I was ingrained to just shut that out. So I think it's really, really important to just have the conversation open and keep talking about it. And so I appreciated you guys so much. And I know like calls are slow, but I'm going to try to come up with more questions and to talk to you guys because I think you guys are so important and I love you guys.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. And, at the very least, you've rescued me from talking about Angel Delight, which was like my absolute bottom of the barrel thing to talk about.
He was going to start making comparisons between me but Briar, can I ask a question, Lloyd?
By all means, yeah.
Because I don't want to let Briar go here. You dated atheists, right?
Oh, exclusively. I've never dated a Christian in my life. And I'm pansexual. I actually have dated women and men and transgender people. And the person that I broke up with I had a 3-year relationship with a transgender person from England. So we were together. We were in love. I literally thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with this person. And they would not let go that Jehovah's Witnesses were a cult. And when they would say that, I would have this visceral, like, puke emoji reaction where I'm like, you cannot say that. That is my family. These people are beautiful. I love them. Don't talk about them like that. And I was so protective. And he tried to get it through to me for years that I was involved in a cult, even though I wasn't involved, obviously. I was living my life in a worldly way. But
that was my question. Were you a believer at the time that you dated all these atheists? Because that must have been a very...
Yeah, I was.
So can you tell us how if dating the atheists as a worldly person, what was that experience? Did you feel yourself being pulled away from the Jehovah's Witness community?
Okay. If I had to hazard a guess if I had to hazard a guess without knowing Briar's story, Briar drifted away from drifted away from the organization or was perhaps disfellowshipped, but held on to the indoctrination and beliefs, which I think describes lots of people. So, routinely I'll hear from people who say things like, I found your channel and only now, after decades of believing that I was about to be destroyed at Armageddon, have I now realized that I was lied to. And so Briar was probably living a worldly lifestyle, but thinking all the while that Armageddon was going to come any moment and destroy her for doing so.
Yeah. So my story is a little, absolutely. So my story is a little strange just because my family was completely split down the middle. I'm 3rd generation Jehovah's Witnesses. So my parents were married out of the organization, but then they brought all of their children into it. indoctrinated all of us to the point where none of us really believe the same thing. And that's one of the points I try to get through to my sisters, because I'm like, even between the three of you that still consider yourselves Christians, none of you guys believe or act the same way, So I just find it really interesting. My grandmother was disfellowshipped 4 times and continued to come back because she thought it was the truth. It was the only truth for her. And eventually she said she just had to lie to the brothers at the kingdom because she's like, I literally just had to start playing their game because we don't agree on a lot of things. So I took that because that happened. I think the last time she was disfellowshipped was in like the late 80s, and I was born in 91. And so she would tell me growing up, like, by the way, you might feel one way, but just don't tell the elders that. And so when I was obviously dating women, nobody really cared that I wasn't like one of the witnesses. I got baptized when I was 13, was completely faded by 15. And, it was just one of those things where I always thought God loved me. Like, I loved everybody. I didn't do anything wrong. I never cheated. I never stole. I never lied. God would love me no matter what, right? And I'm like, if I'm wrong, and at the end of the day, he's going to kill me because I love somebody who is either, transgender or the same sex as me, I just don't agree with that, So, I had this huge cognitive dissonance where I'm like, I have this idea of what God is, and I think God will love me no matter what. But if you sit and listen, that's not what they teach. So I'm just like, eventually I was like, wow, I actually don't believe this at all, So it is huge how long you have to go completely cutting out half of what you hear, listening in to the meetings, it's hard. It's hard.
Absolutely.
And it makes you wonder. And it makes me wonder how folks in that community see their group. When you have to deny all of these facts, these demonstrable facts, like healthy, well-balanced individuals who think differently from the dogma. And I guess you have to say, well, they're going to get theirs. They're going to get their comeuppance. They're going to see how the wages of sin is death. Someday they might be happy and well adjusted. They might be in a loving, supportive relationship. They might be having a good time. They might be a good neighbor and a sibling and a child to their parents or their grandparents. But they're gonna get it eventually someday, and I have to save them from that. There's gymnastics that take place in some of these groups, mental gymnastics, because they have that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, and
so
I think
good for you
it's
for
really harmful
for
to your mental health. I think it's really important to learn as much as you can about your psychology. And honestly, if I didn't listen to your guys' show, if I wasn't talked to by people that were atheists for years that loved me and were like, I want you to just think twice about what you're saying you believe, years would go by with me being like, nope, there's no way that God doesn't exist. There's no way that Jehovah's Witnesses are not the religion that is going to make it through Armageddon. It's insane. And I have to say, one thing I love that Lloyd Evans does is that he always says, get professional help. And I've been in therapy for 1.5 years, and I honestly don't think I would be where I am right now without therapy.
Well done. That's fantastic. And it's a huge leap forward. The first step to recognizing that there is a problem or that there's something, wrong in your past is to, recognize that problem and do something about it. And, when we're dealing with PTSD, which is essentially what we're dealing with here, when you've been in a cult and you have religious trauma syndrome, you need to take ownership of that, and it can be scary. But the fact that you've taken that necessary step and you're getting the help that you need speaks a lot to your courage and bravery. And so, well done for dealing with it in the correct way. And I really appreciate your motivational words. We will certainly do our best to keep this show rolling. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you guys. Good luck with the rest of the show. Have a good day.
Thanks so much. Take care.